This happened back in high school, so we're talking almost 15 years ago now. But I still think about it more than I'd like to admit. There was this house at the end of my street that had been empty for as long as I could remember. The story around the neighborhood was that the family who lived there just up and left one day, left furniture in the rooms, left dishes in the sink, didn't even bother selling it. Nobody really knew why, and nobody seemed to care enough to find out officially. It was just an abandoned house that eventually got boarded up by the city, but the boards on the back door had been kicked in for years, so every kid on the block had been inside. At some point, it was basically a rite of passage. Me and two friends decided to go in one night in October, because why not? It was cold, and the house had no heat, obviously, so our breath was visible. The second we stepped inside, we had one flashlight between the three of us because we weren't smart enough to bring more. The downstairs was unremarkable, just empty rooms, water damage on the ceiling. That kind of thing. We went upstairs because that's where the good stuff always is in these places. And about halfway up, my friend stopped dead and told us to be quiet. We stood there and heard footsteps coming from one of the bedrooms. Slow, deliberate, like someone pacing back and forth. We all assumed it was a squatter or another group of kids. So we called out. Nobody answered. The footsteps just stopped instantly. The second we spoke, like whoever it was heard us and froze. We should have left right there, but we didn't. We crept toward the bedroom door and my friend pushed it open with the flashlight raised. The room was completely empty. No window, not even open. No closet big enough to hide someone, nowhere. For a person to have gone that fast, the floor was thick with dust and undisturbed, except for one thing, a single set of bare footprints leading from the center of the room to the wall and just stopping there. Like whoever made them either vanished or walked straight into the wall. None of us said a word. We just turned and left as fast as we could without technically running down the stairs and out the back door. I didn't look behind me the whole way home. The house got demolished a few years later to build something else, and I never went back in before that happened. I still don't know what was pacing in that room or where those footprints were supposed to lead, but I know sound doesn't fake itself and dust doesn't lie about what walks through it. So my job for a while was doing home inspections, mostly routine stuff, pre-sale inspections, insurance stuff. Nothing exciting normally, but this one time I got sent out to an old farmhouse about 40 minutes outside town that had been sitting vacant for going on 6 years. The bank owned it now after some kind of foreclosure, and they wanted a full walkthrough before listing it. I got there around noon on a weekday, which matters because there was nothing eerie about the setting itself. Bright out birds, going normal farmland stuff. The outside of the house was rough peeling paint, overgrown yard, but structurally fine. I let myself in with the lockbox code and started my walkthrough, like I'd done 100 times before. Ground floor was standard empty rooms that smell all vacant houses, get kind of stale and dusty. At the same time, I made my notes moved up to the second floor. And that's when things got strange. Every door on that floor was closed, except one at the end of the hallway, which was open, maybe 6 inches. I hadn't been up there yet, so I knew it wasn't me. I pushed it open, expecting an empty bedroom like everything else in the house. Instead, it was fully furnished, a made bed, a dresser with picture frames on top, curtains still hanging like someone was currently living in that one room, while the rest of the house had been stripped and abandoned around it. I checked my paperwork. The report clearly said, unoccupied full vacancy for 6 years. I stood in that doorway for a solid minute, just trying to make sense of it, before I made myself go in and look closer. The picture frames on the dresser were all empty. No photos in them at all. Just glass and backing, and the bed, although made, was ice cold to the touch. Colder than the rest of the house had any right to be. I finished the room fast, wrote what I saw in my notes, and got out of that house faster than any inspection I've ever done when I called it into the bank rep later that day and mentioned the furnished room. She went quiet for a second and told me nobody with access to that property in 6 years had reported anything like that, and that the room should have been empty. Like the rest of the house, I never went back for the follow-up inspection. I told them to send someone else. I still think about that cold bed and those empty frames more than I'd like to. This is from a couple summers ago. Me and a buddy of mine were really into exploring old properties we'd find on public tax records. Abandoned stuff. Nobody was watching. We came across one that had been empty for over a decade. A 2-story house way off a gravel road with no neighbors for almost a mile in either direction, which honestly should have been our first warning sign. We went in through a side window since every door was nailed shut from the inside somehow, which we didn't think too hard about at the time. In hindsight, that should have bothered us a lot more. It was mid-afternoon, plenty of daylight coming through the windows, so we felt safe enough. We split up to cover more ground, faster, which again, terrible decision, but we were caught up in it. I was on the ground floor, going room to room, when I heard my friend call out from upstairs, telling me to come look at something. I headed up and found him standing in a hallway, staring at the wall where someone had written a string of numbers over and over in what looked like charcoal or soot. The same 7 numbers repeated maybe 40 times, floor to ceiling in different handwriting. Like it wasn't one person who wrote it, but many. Neither of us could figure out what the numbers meant. A date, a phone number, coordinates, nothing lined up. We took a picture of it and kept exploring, which again was probably not the smartest move. About 10 minutes later, we both heard it at the same time. A woman's voice from somewhere in the house reciting those same 7 numbers, slow and flat, like someone reading off a list. We looked at each other and didn't say anything. We just left immediately. Out the same window we came in through. Neither of us has been back since when I got home and pulled up the photo on my phone later that night to actually look at the numbers closely. The image was completely corrupted, just static and color noise where the wall should have been. Every other photo from that day was fine. It was just that one, and I've never been able to explain why.